Welcome student to my BioEdge concept decoded channel where we have started the NEET Bio PYQ Mastery series, and this NEET PYQ Mastery series we will going to cover the 37 years of PYQs, and these PYQs will be decoded, discussed with logical thinking, and this logical thinking is very important to handle the MCQs. And if you able to solve the MCQs with a logical reasoning with certain techniques, then definitely it will be going to help you in NEET exam. So I have covered part 1 of breathing and exchange of gases. Today I am going to cover the part 2. So you must watch the part first to know the how I choose the correct option, why I have eliminated other options. If you get the approach or strategy to select the appropriate option, then it will be a certainly benefit in your final NEET exam. So we will be going to cover in this part 2 chapter exchange of gases topic and transportation of gases. So these all PYQs will be covered topic wise as well as year wise. See the first topic, exchange of gases. Exchange of gases takes place at two levels, lungs level and another at a tissue level. So these exchange of gases, lungs level exchange of gases would be called as the external respiration, and tissue level exchange of gases is called as internal respiration. And this exchange of gases takes place mainly of two gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. So let's see how the oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange at a lungs level and exchange at a tissue level. Let's see how PYQs are framed on this topic. So first, this PYQ comes in 2021. Select the favorable conditions required for the formation of oxyhemoglobin at alveoli level. So alveoli level means they want to know what are the conditions at the lungs level, because alveoli is structural and functional unit of lungs, and at the lungs level why there is a formation of oxyhemoglobin HbO2. So oxygen binds with hemoglobin at lungs level, and what are the factors responsible for binding of oxygen at, if this is the blood vessels, this is the alveoli, and this oxygen comes into the blood, and in blood it goes into RBC, and in RBC there is hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is a respiratory pigment and it binds with the hemoglobin. So what are the factors responsible for binding of oxygen with this hemoglobin? As you know, at the lungs level there is a partial pressure of oxygen is high. So then next one is the H plus ion concentration is low, means pH is high. Temperature is low because there is no catabolic process takes place at the lungs level. H plus ions are produced because of the carbon dioxide which is high at the tissue level, but at the lungs level it is a less concentration. BPG is the bisphosphoglycerate which is the byproduct of glycolysis, and this glycolysis takes place at the tissue level. That's why this BPG also less at the lungs level. These are the conditions. And then next one is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Partial pressure of carbon dioxide is less at the lungs level. Why? Because carbon dioxide is produced at the tissue level. That's why it is high in concentration at a tissue level and low in concentration at a lungs level. So these are the certain factors which are responsible for formation of oxyhemoglobin, and partial pressure of oxygen is the main factor responsible for formation of oxyhemoglobin. So let's see which option given these conditions. So high partial pressure of oxygen, correct. Low partial pressure of CO2, correct. Less H plus ions concentration, correct. Lower temperature is also, so that's why first option is the correct option. Then let's see why other three options are incorrect. Low partial pressure of oxygen, No, there is a high concentration of oxygen because we inhale the air, and air contains 21% of oxygen, and this air goes into the lungs. That's why partial pressure of oxygen is always high at the lungs level. That's why low PO2 is wrong. So then next option, high PO2, correct. High PCO2, no, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low at the lungs level because production of carbon dioxide takes place at tissue level. Where production takes place, there would be a high concentration. So this option is also wrong. Then low PO2, partial pressure of oxygen is not low at the lungs level. That's why first option is the correct option. Let's see the next question. This is the assertion reason based questions. Let's see the first statement. A person goes to high altitude and experiences altitude sickness with symptoms like difficulty in breathing and heart palpitation. Second statement, due to low atmospheric pressure at a high altitude, body does not get sufficient oxygen. First, you should know the assertion or reason is correct or wrong, and then you should connect this assertion and reason by using the words because, due to. So let's see, such questions can be handled with a certain conceptual understanding. So I will explain here concept. So if person goes at a high altitude, then there would be a decrease in concentration of oxygen, and if concentration of oxygen is decreased, then their partial pressure of oxygen is also decreased. And if partial pressure of oxygen decrease, and this is the alveoli of lung, and if the partial pressure of oxygen in alveoli decrease, then there would be a less diffusion of oxygen in blood. And if less diffusion of oxygen in blood, and if this blood vessel supplies the oxygen to the tissue, then there is also less diffusion of oxygen in tissue. So that's why demand of tissue for the oxygen is not fulfilled at a high altitude. Why? Because low atmospheric pressure results into the less supply of oxygen to the tissue. That's why body shows certain symptoms like breathing difficulty. So body tries to increase the breathing rate, so it results into increase in a breathing rate. And heart palpitations like symptoms. Heart palpitations means you are going to sense the heartbeats. Why heartbeats are increased? Because body wants to supply more blood to the tissue. Why? Because tissues are not getting sufficient oxygen. So this is the whole phenomenon. So let's connect these two statements. Whether the this altitude sickness event is happen because of this R statement. Yes, these both statements are correct statement, and first event is occurred due to this reason. So let's see the options. Both A and R true, and R is the correct explanation of A. So this is the correct option. Next question, the partial pressure of oxygen in alveoli of the lungs. So you should know the diagram of NCERT where the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide are mentioned. So this diagram is very important. I will tell you the mechanism how the partial pressure changes from atmospheric level to the tissue level, and how carbon dioxide's partial pressure it changes from tissue to atmospheric level. First we will see the partial pressure of oxygen. Partial pressure of oxygen in atmosphere. So I will write here atmosphere 159 mm of Ag, millimeter of mercury. Then next these 159 partial pressure of oxygen goes into alveoli. If this is the alveoli, we inhale atmospheric air, and this inhaled air comes into the alveoli. In alveoli it is 104 mm of Hg, and in alveoli there are blood vessels. This oxygen exchange into these blood vessels. So blood vessels, these are the pulmonary capillaries, and this is the deoxygenated blood of the capillaries, and this is the after mixing of oxygen. So deoxygenated part of the pulmonary capillary consists of partial pressure of oxygen is 40 mm of Hg, and oxygenated after diffusion of oxygen from lungs, this part oxygenated part this 40 partial pressure of oxygen converted into 95 mm of Hg. And if this 95 mm of Hg partial pressure goes at a tissue level, tissue has a partial pressure of oxygen 40. That's why oxygen diffuses from 95 to 40 mm of Hg, and this 40 partial pressure of oxygen changes into 40 mm of Hg, because this is the oxygenated blood and this is the deoxygenated blood. Oxygen goes into tissue, and that's why partial pressure of oxygen decreases in this part, deoxygenated blood, and this deoxygenated blood consists of the 40 mm of Hg, which is also goes to the lungs also. So this is the scenario. Let's see partial pressure of oxygen in alveoli. So alveoli partial pressure of oxygen is alveoli is 104, in atmosphere 159, in a deoxygenated blood it is a 40 mm of Hg, in a oxygenated blood it is a 95 mm of Hg, and always exchange of gases takes place from alveoli air to the deoxygenated blood. So it is equal to that in the blood. So no, so alveoli partial pressure is 104 and blood's partial pressure in deoxygenated blood 40 mm Hg, oxygenated blood 95 mm Hg. So this option is wrong. More than that in the blood. Yes. So it is 104 in alveoli, 40 in deoxygenated blood in pulmonary capillaries, and 95 in oxygenated blood of pulmonary capillaries. So always it is greater than the 40 and 95. So that's why. So partial pressure of oxygen in alveoli is more than that in a blood. So this statement is correct. Let's see why these two statements are wrong. Less than that in the blood. So 104 is more than that in the blood. That's why it is not less. Less than that of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide partial pressure in alveoli is 40 mm of Hg, and oxygen is 104. That's why it is not less than the carbon dioxide. This is also wrong. So correct statement is the B statement. Next question is the figure based question. The figure given below shows the small part of the human lungs where exchange of gases takes place. Select the options which represents the label part A, B, C, D, and correctly identify along with its functions. You should identify these parts along with the functions. First option is C is arterial capillaries. Arterial capillary, this is the pulmonary capillary, correct. Then it passes oxygen to tissue. So it does not passes oxygen to tissue, it passes oxygen to lungs. This is the alveoli. That's why first option is wrong option. A is alveolar cavity. So A either is alveolar cavity. Yes, it is alveolar cavity where gases present, oxygen, carbon dioxide. Then it is the main site of exchange of respiratory gases, correct. So main site of exchange of gases, here the exchange of gases takes place. So oxygen comes into the blood and CO2 goes into the alveolar cavity, and it is the main exchange of gases. And second exchange of gases is takes place at a tissue level. So that's why this statement is correct statement. So let's see, D is capillary wall. I think this D is a basement membrane. Exchange of oxygen and CO2 takes place here. D is not a capillary wall. D is a basement membrane. Then B is a red blood cells, correct. Transport of carbon dioxide mainly. Red blood cells mainly transport oxygen. What percentage of oxygen is transported by the red blood cell? It is a 97%. And what percentage of carbon dioxide transported by the RBC is 23%. That's why RBC is mainly transport the oxygen, not carbon dioxide. That's why this statement is wrong. Next question, the exchange of gases in alveoli of the lungs takes place by passive transport. So passive transport, yes, without energy it will take place. Then active transport, no, there is no requirement of energy for the transportation of gases. Then osmosis does not take place. Here the simple diffusion is takes place. What do you mean by simple diffusion? Simple diffusion means high concentration to low concentration of gases. So simple diffusion takes place in the lungs. Then next, in lungs, air is separated from venous blood through. So they have asked us to know what is mean by diffusion membrane. So this diffusion membrane is present between the alveolar air and blood. So this is the diffusion membrane, and diffusion membrane made up of three parts. These are the simple squamous epithelial cells of the alveoli, and this is the basement membrane, and this is the endothelial cells of blood vessels, and these mainly pulmonary capillaries, and this part is called as diffusion membrane, where gases are diffused. Let's see which option fits. First one is the transitional epithelium. So transitional epithelium is not present. Then squamous epithelium, correct. Then endothelium of blood vessels. Yes, squamous epithelium of alveoli and endothelium of pulmonary capillaries. That's why this statement is correct. Squamous epithelium, this statement is correct. But tunica media of blood vessels, so blood vessels are present in the form of capillaries, not in a three-layered form, because capillaries are single layered. So that's why this diffusion membrane can be a thin, so its thickness is less than 1 millimeter. This is how thin diffusion membrane is for the diffusion of gases. None of the above is also not the correct answer. The alveolar epithelium in lungs is non-ciliated columnar, not a columnar, as we have discussed earlier. So alveolar epithelium is a simple squamous epithelium. Simple squamous. Squamous means flat. This option is wrong. Non-ciliated squamous, correct. So this is the non-ciliated squamous epithelium. Ciliated columnar, wrong. Ciliated squamous, wrong. Thus the correct answer is B option. Let's see the next topic, transportation of gases. Transportation takes place mainly through the RBC, red blood cells, and blood's plasma. Transportation of gases takes place through blood, and in blood mainly takes place by the RBCs and plasmas. So let's see how the PYQs are framed on this topic. Which of the following factors are favorable for formation of oxyhemoglobin in alveoli? So this question is repeated, but options are changed. So first one is the low partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So this option is correct, because at the alveoli means lungs level, they want to know what are the different factors at the lungs level for formation of HbO2. So low partial pressure of carbon dioxide, correct, and high H plus ion concentration, wrong. High H plus ion concentration takes place present at tissue level. Why? Because tissue releases carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide combined with water and forms carbonic acid H2CO3, and this carbonic acid dissociates into bicarbonate ions and H plus ions. That's why these H plus ions are more present in tissue level, not at the lungs level. So this is the wrong statement. So low partial pressure of carbon dioxide, correct, and high temperature, wrong. Temperature is not high at the lungs level. Temperature is high at the tissue level. Why? Because at a tissue level there is a takes place of glycolysis, oxidation takes place, catabolic oxidation takes place, and at the end product is the ATP, and ATP is the energy currency of the body, and that's why it produces energy. So if there is a production of ATP, then there will be a high temperature, it releases the energy. So that high temperature is the wrong part of the statement. Then next, high partial pressure of oxygen, correct. Partial pressure of oxygen is high, and high partial pressure of CO2, no. Partial pressure of CO2 is high at a tissue level, because tissue releases carbon dioxide as a byproduct of glycolysis, and that's why tissue has a high concentration of CO2 as well as high concentration of H plus ions, as well as because of energy release they have high temperature. That's why this is also wrong part of the option. So this is also wrong. Then high partial pressure of oxygen, correct. Partial pressure of oxygen at a lung level is high because we inhale the oxygen in lungs, and lesser H plus ion concentration, correct. Why there is a lesser H plus ion concentration? Because all this process becomes reversible and carbon dioxide is released from the lungs. That's why these bicarbonate ions and H plus ions are not present in a free form. It combines and forms the carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide will be released from the lungs. That's why this statement is the correct statement. Next one is the under normal physiological conditions in human being, every 100 ml of oxygenated blood can deliver -ml of oxygen to the tissue. As we know, the 100 ml of blood carries 20 ml of oxygen to tissue, but out of this 20 ml, oxygen unloading takes place at the tissue level is only 5 ml. Only 5 ml oxygen is unloaded at the tissue level, and remaining 15 ml of oxygen goes into the lungs again. That's why 5 ml oxygen is unloaded at a tissue level, and this out of 20 ml 5 ml is unloaded, means it is 25% unloading of oxygen takes place at a tissue level. Percentage as well as absolute quantity. Absolutely 5 ml oxygen is unloading takes place at a tissue level, and it is a 25% of total oxygen present in the blood. Then next one is the partial pressure in mm of Hg of oxygen and carbon dioxide at alveoli are. So alveoli, we know alveoli consist of the 104 mm of Hg partial pressure of oxygen, and partial pressure of CO2 is 40 mm of Hg. Whether this option is given, this is the factual question, you should know it. Partial pressure of oxygen is 104, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40. So first option is correct. Identify the wrong statement with reference to transport of gases. So binding of oxygen with hemoglobin is mainly related to partial pressure of oxygen, correct. Oxygen binding with hemoglobin and formation of oxyhemoglobin takes place at a lungs level, and there are various factors which supports the formation of oxyhemoglobin. Among these factors, partial pressure of oxygen is the main factor. Then next one is the partial pressure of CO2 can interfere with the oxygen binding with hemoglobin. Yes, partial pressure of carbon dioxide can interfere with the oxygen binding with hemoglobin. This statement is also correct statement. We want to choose the wrong statement. This statement is also correct statement. Then next one, higher H plus ion concentration in alveoli favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin. No, lower H plus ion concentration, not a higher concentration of H plus ions. Lower concentration, lower H plus ions favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin. That's why this statement is wrong. So that correct option is the C options. Next option is low PCO2 in alveoli favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin, correct. Partial pressure of CO2 can interfere with oxygen binding with hemoglobin. B option and D option is similar options, only statements are changed. They basically talk about the PCO2 in lungs. So correct option is the C option. Reduction in pH of blood will. So if pH of the blood is reduced, then there would be H plus ions increase in the blood. So what will happen? Let's see. First option, decrease the affinity of hemoglobin with oxygen. Yes, these if H plus ions are increased at the tissue level, and if tissue level H plus ions are increased and these H plus ions binds with the amino part of the hemoglobin and forms hemoglobinic acid, and there will be a slight change in the structure, and if there is a slight change in structure, HbO2 dissociates and forms the hemoglobin and oxygen. So that's why oxygen release will be increased. Why this bond between the hemoglobin and oxygen break down? Because of the H plus ions. That's why there is a decrease in affinity of hemoglobin with oxygen. If there is a decrease in affinity, attraction of oxygen towards the hemoglobin, then there will be a breakdown of HbO2 molecule. So this statement is correct, and this statement is correct with reference to the tissue. So then release of bicarbonate ion by the liver. So liver can release the bicarbonate ion because of increase in H plus ions. So this statement is in general is correct, but with reference to the breathing and exchange of gases, so bicarbonate ions are released by the RBCs, red blood cells. Why red blood cells releases the bicarbonate ion? Because at the tissue level, carbon dioxide diffuses into the RBCs, and in RBCs there will be a formation of carbon dioxide combines with water and forms carbonic acid, and carbonic acid dissociates into bicarbonate ion and H plus ion. So and these H2CO3 bicarbonic acid, and these bicarbonate ions are released by the RBCs. That's why this statement is wrong. Reduce the rate of heartbeat. If H plus ions are increased, what is the significance? This condition is called as the acidosis of blood. Blood becomes acidic in nature. Why? Because H plus ions are increased, and if there is acidosis of blood, so body wants to remove the excessive carbon dioxide. Why these H plus ions are formed? Because of the carbon dioxide, and this means body is not able to remove the excessive carbon dioxide, and it leads into the acidosis of blood. So body tries to remove this carbon dioxide, and in these efforts body increases the heart rate. So not to reduce the heart rate, if we increase the heart rate, then there is a more supply of blood to the lungs, and if there is a more supply of the blood to the lungs, then lungs will remove more amount of carbon dioxide through exhalation. That's why there is a no reduction in heartbeat, there will be increase in heartbeat. That's why this statement is wrong. Then next one is the reduce the blood supply to the brain. It does not result in the reduction of the blood supply to the brain, but it will result in the reduction of oxygen supply, reduced oxygen supply to the brain. Why? Because of more carbon dioxide present in a blood. Hence this option is also wrong. So correct option is the A option. Approximately 70% of carbon dioxide absorbed by the blood will be transported to the lungs. Carbon dioxide transported from tissue to lungs in three forms. First one is the dissolved in plasma form, so it is a 7%, and then next one is it combines with the hemoglobin and forms the carbamino hemoglobin. Why? Because carbon dioxide combined with amino group of hemoglobin and forms the carba-amino hemoglobin. It is around 23%. Range is the 20 to 25%, and average is 23%, and remaining 70% carbon dioxide is transported in the form of bicarbonate ions. So let's see. 70% of carbon dioxide is absorbed by the blood will be transported to the lungs as a bicarbonate ion. So this is the correct option in the form of dissolved gas molecules. So dissolved gas molecule, it is transported as a 7%. In a bicarbonate ion, it is transported as 70%. By binding to the RBC, 23% as a carba-amino hemoglobin. So carba-amino hemoglobin is after binding of carbon dioxide with hemoglobin. So that's why basically these two options are similar options. So correct option is A option. A large proportion of oxygen remains unused in human blood even after it uptakes by the body tissue. These oxygen, as we know, we have discussed, oxygen transported to the tissue is 20 ml, but out of 20 ml unloading of oxygen takes place only 5 ml, means 25% unloading takes place at the tissue level, and this remaining 15 ml oxygen acts as a reservoir during muscular exercise. If we do the strenuous exercise, then there would be a utilization of this 15 ml of oxygen. This oxygen unloading takes place during the muscular exercise. So this raises the PCO2 of blood to 75 mm, which is wrong. Partial pressure of carbon dioxide never comes to the 75 mm of Hg. Is enough to keep oxyhemoglobin saturation at 96%. No, if unloading takes place 5 ml and remaining 15 ml of oxygen is present in the blood, and it does not responsible for the complete saturation of oxyhemoglobin, helps in releasing more O2 to epithelial tissue. It is also wrong. So release of oxygen from hemoglobin is affected by the different factors, like partial pressure of carbon dioxide, H plus ions, temperature, BPG. This is not a correct answer. Next question, bulk of carbon dioxide released from the body tissue into the blood is present as, bulk means large proportion, as a bicarbonate in a blood plasma and RBC. So bulk of carbon dioxide present in a bicarbonate ion, as we discussed, 70% of carbon dioxide is present in the form of bicarbonate ion in a blood plasma. And RBC, correct, RBC consists of the 23% of carbon dioxide. So total carbon dioxide is 93% present in a blood plasma and RBC. So let's see next option, free carbon dioxide in blood plasma. Free carbon dioxide in blood plasma means dissolved form of the carbon dioxide, and it is 7%. Then 70% carbaminohemoglobin. No, the carbaminohemoglobin form of oxygen is only 23%, not 70%, and 30% as a bicarbonate. No, it is also wrong. Then carbaminohemoglobin RBC, yes, carbaminohemoglobin RBC is present is 23%. So which option has a large proportion of carbon dioxide? So here is a 93% carbon dioxide is transported. So that's why first option is the correct option. Then next, what is true about RBCs in human being? They carry about 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide. So this is the correct statement. They carry 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide in form of carbaminohemoglobin. They transport 99.5% of oxygen. Wrong. They transport 97% of oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin. That's why this statement is wrong statement, and we have to tick mark the truth statement. They transport about 80% oxygen only, and the rest 20% of it is transported in a dissolved form. Wrong. It is a 97% and 3% is the dissolved form, and they do not carry oxygen at all. Wrong. They carry oxygen. These three statements are wrong. That's why correct answer is the A. The hemoglobin of human fetus. So hemoglobin of human fetus has only 2 protein subunits instead of 4. So this statement is a wrong statement, because human fetus hemoglobin is slightly different from the adult hemoglobin. Adult hemoglobin consists of the 2 alpha and 2 beta chains, but fetus hemoglobin consists of the 2 alpha and 2 gamma chains. That's why adult hemoglobin and fetus hemoglobin is slightly different. So slightly their structures are different. So this statement is wrong. Has a higher affinity for oxygen than that of an adult. Yes, this statement is the correct statement. Why? Because of slight change in a structure of the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is made up of 4 globulin proteins. Out of these, 2 gamma chains are present, and this slight change in the structure responsible for greater affinity towards oxygen than adult hemoglobin. Has a lower affinity for oxygen than that of the adult. It is a wrong statement. Its affinity for oxygen is same as that of an adult. It is also wrong. Fetus takes the oxygen from mother's blood, and that's why there is a requirement of a greater affinity towards the hemoglobin. So correct statement is the A statement. The majority of carbon dioxide produced by our body cells is transported to the lungs as bicarbonate ion. As this is the repeated question we have discussed. So carbon dioxide transported to the lungs, majority, that is the 70%, as a bicarbonate ion. As a carbonate, wrong. As a dissolved form in blood, 7%, attached to hemoglobin, 23%. So majority is as a bicarbonate ion. Then hemoglobin is a type of carbohydrate. It is not a carbohydrate. So hemoglobin structure, hemoglobin consists of the 4 protein chains, consist of the 2 alpha and 2 beta chains in adult hemoglobin, and 2 alpha and 2 gamma chains in fetal hemoglobin, and it consists of the non-protein part called as the iron. So iron is present in the ferrous form, Fe++. So yes, that's why it is not carbohydrate. Respiratory pigment. Yes, this is the respiratory pigment. Why it is called as pigment? Because iron part gives the color. So iron gives the red color. And why it is called as the respiratory? Because in a respiration, this molecule is responsible for transportation of gases. So transportation of gases, CO2 and O2 is transported by hemoglobin. CO2 binds with amino part of protein. That's why it forms the carboamino hemoglobin, HbO2, and oxygen binds with iron part of hemoglobin, very important, and it forms the oxyhemoglobin. But oxygen binds with the iron and carbon dioxide bind with the protein part. That's why B is the correct answer. It is not a vitamin, it is not a skin pigment. Skin pigments are the melanin pigment which gives the color to the skin. Then next one, how the transport of oxygen and CO2 by blood happens. So blood is responsible for the transportation of oxygen as well as carbon dioxide, and blood consists of the blood cells and plasma. This is the major 2 parts of the blood, and in blood cells RBC is responsible transportation of gases, and plasma is responsible for also transportation of gases. So let's see options with the help of WBC and blood serum. No, WBC are not involved in the transportation of gases, and blood serum means plasma minus clotting factor. This is also not involved in transportation. With the help of platelets and corpuscles, platelets are not involved in the transportation. Corpuscles consist of the all blood elements, form elements, but it is only RBC is responsible for transportation of gases. So this is also wrong statements. With the help of RBC and blood plasma, this is the correct statement. In blood cells, only RBC is responsible for transportation of gases, and blood plasma is responsible. Blood plasma carry both oxygen as well as CO2 in a large proportion, because dissolution capacity of carbon dioxide as compared to the oxygen is 20 to 25 times more. That's why 7% carbon dioxide is transported in a plasma, and only 3% oxygen is transported in a blood plasma. So next is with the help of RBC and WBC. As we know, WBC is involved in the defense mechanism, not transportation of gases. So this option is also wrong option. Next, at a high altitude, RBCs in human blood will. So as we know, if we go at a high altitude, then there will be a decrease of partial pressure of oxygen, and if partial pressure of oxygen decreased, then there would be a less supply of oxygen to tissue. And how body adapt to this less oxygen supply to the tissue? So body can increase the heartbeat, they can adapt or acclimatize at the high level. So first one is the increase in number. So RBC in human blood will increase in number, correct? So at a high altitude, body tries to increase the hemopoiesis, and in hemopoiesis body increase erythropoiesis. So erythropoiesis result into the increase in RBC count. So normal RBC count is 5.5 millions per cubic centimeter, but these 5.5 million RBCs count is increased up to 7 million per cubic millimeter. This normal 5.5 million RBC count is increased up to 7 million per cubic centimeter. Why there is a need of the increase in number of the RBCs? RBC increase will help to transport the oxygen. If there is a low partial pressure in lungs at alveoli level, still there are number of RBCs are more. That's why there would be a greater formation of oxyhemoglobin and demand of oxygen of tissue is fulfilled. Decrease in number, it is wrong. Increase in size, wrong. Decrease in size, wrong. Although much of carbon dioxide is carried in blood, yet blood does not become acidic, because as we know, carbon dioxide if combined with the water forms the carbonic acid and bicarbonate ion and release the H plus ions. But still there is no change in the pH of the blood. Why pH of the blood is not changed? Because of certain factors. Let's see options. Carbon dioxide is continuously diffused through the tissue and is not allowed to accumulate. So this is not a correct statement, because carbon dioxide continues diffuse through the tissue, and it is a correct statement. But after diffusion of carbon dioxide from tissue to blood, then there would be a formation of bicarbonate and H plus ions, and this is not a correct explanation why there is a no change in pH of the blood. Then second statement, in CO2 transport, blood buffers plays an important role. Very important. There are certain buffers so in blood which prevents the change in pH of blood. Thus the blood buffers maintain pH of the blood from 7.35 to 7.45. so average pH of the blood is 7.4. pH of the blood, which is slightly alkaline in nature, is maintained by the blood buffers. So this is the correct answer. Then CO2 absorbed by the leukocyte. Leukocyte does not involve in the absorption of CO2. Leukocytes means white blood cells. CO2 combines with the water to form bicarbonate, which is neutralized by sodium carbonate. No, there is no neutralization by sodium carbonate. So this is also wrong statement. The carbon dioxide is transported via blood to lungs mostly in combination with hemoglobin only. Only means this is the extreme word used by, so it is wrong, because carbon dioxide combines with hemoglobin as well as it is transported in the form of bicarbonate ion and dissolved form. So it is a wrong statement. Dissolve in a blood plasma. So dissolve in blood plasma is only 7%, but demand of question is carbon dioxide transported to the lungs mostly, mainly, majority. So this is the wrong statement, in the form of bicarbonate ion. So this is the correct, because majority of carbon dioxide is transported in a bicarbonate form as a carboaminohemoglobin and as a carbonic acid. So no, carbonic acid is not transported, it is dissociated into bicarbonate ion. So this and carboaminohemoglobin 23%, that's why both this statement is also wrong statement. Next one is the carbon dioxide is transported from tissue to respiratory surface by only. It is a transportation mechanism of carbon dioxide from tissue to respiratory surface means lungs, plasma and erythrocyte. Yes, erythrocytes are responsible for transportation. Plasma is also responsible transportation. Plasma. So this is correct, but most correct option is the A. Then erythrocyte, this is also correct. Erythrocyte, leukocytes are not responsible. So this is the most appropriate option, because both elements which are responsible for transportation of gases is mentioned in A. This statement is also correct, but as comparison to the A statement, B and C is not relatively appropriate options. Thank you student for watching this video. If you get the certain ideas, insight or certain techniques how to solve the questions, how I have used the logic and eliminate other options and go to the right options, what are the concepts behind the questions I have explained in each and every questions. If you like my efforts, then you should share this video, like this video. Thanks once again, and please share this video with your friends.